What if the move that defines the next decade in Boston is already being whispered behind closed doors? With the trade deadline breathing down the league's neck, a three-team scenario has surfaced that feels almost reckless in its ambition. And that is exactly why it matters. This is not about a short-term push. This is about control. A proposal making the rounds would land Bam Adebayo in Boston, quietly shifting the balance of power in the East. Not because of highlights or box scores, but because of what he unlocks. Adebayo is not a traditional center, and that is the point. He bends defensive rules without demanding the offense revolve around him. Screens that actually free stars. Defensive reads made a second faster than everyone else. A system player who raises the system itself. Here is the uncomfortable question nobody wants to ask. What if Adebayo's so-called down year is not decline, but stagnation? Miami asks him to be everything at once. Boston would ask him to be precise. There is a difference. Precision lasts longer. Brian Scalabrine questioned why the numbers are not louder. Fair criticism, but numbers are symptoms, not causes. Put Adebayo next to decision-makers who punish every mistake, and suddenly, efficiency replaces volume. Suddenly his impact shows up where it wins games that feel lost. The cost looks heavy on paper. Picks, shooters, depth. But Boston is not chasing survival. It is chasing leverage. A core built around Tatum, Brown, and Adebayo is not flashy. It is suffocating. It ages well. It forces opponents into bad choices every night. The real tension is not fit. It is philosophy. Would Miami ever empower a rival like this? Would Boston accept life deeper into the tax, knowing flexibility shrinks? Here is the bold take. Windows are not preserved by caution. They are seized by conviction. This trade may never happen, but the idea itself reveals something important. Boston is thinking bigger than this season. And if the front office believes the future is decided by players who solve problems instead of creating them, then this conversation is only the beginning. What if the loudest update on Jayson Tatum does not come from a press conference, but from a trade call that suddenly goes through? As the deadline approaches, Boston's silence feels calculated, and that is exactly why league insiders are watching every move with suspicion. Here is the tension nobody states openly. Teams do not push chips to the center of the table unless they know what the next card looks like. According to Jake Fisher, the Celtics' behavior before February 5 will quietly reveal how real the belief is inside the building that Tatum is coming back this season. Not hope, belief. Think about what a major trade would actually signal. It would mean Boston is not planning for survival. It would mean Boston is planning for impact. Acquiring a high-level big right now is not about patching a hole. It is about synchronizing timelines. Front offices do not gamble future assets unless the internal medical and performance data is screaming confidence. 8 months removed from surgery, the calendar now aligns with what was whispered early on. No setbacks. No panic, just patience. That matters. And it explains why Boston has been connected to names that change how playoff series are coached, not just how rotations look in January. A smaller move would still make sense. A bigger move would change the entire tone of the season. One suggests caution, the other suggests a green light that only a few people in the league are allowed to see. Here is the sharp angle most fans miss. Even standing still is a decision. If Boston waits, it may be because they already know reinforcements are walking through the door from within. If Boston strikes hard, it may be because they are preparing the stage for something much bigger. Either way, the deadline is no longer just about trades. It is about decoding confidence. And if the Celtics act like a team that expects number 0 back when it matters most, that alone tells you the story is far from finished. What if one of the most uncomfortable names on the trade market ends up shaping Boston's future without ever wearing green again? As the deadline creeps closer, Terry Rozier's situation is turning into a quiet stress test for the entire Eastern Conference. And Celtics fans should be paying attention for reasons that go far beyond nostalgia. Miami has been trying to move Rozier for months, not because of basketball fit, but because his expiring contract has become a strategic object. Front offices do not keep volatile assets by accident. They keep them because timing matters. ESPN insiders labeling Rozier as a player to watch is not about expectation, it is about leverage. Here is the angle few are discussing. Rozier's contract is a mirror for the market. If Miami manages to move it, prices for guards and mid-tier scorers across the league immediately shift. That ripple affects Boston directly. Every deal completed sets a new reference point, and Boston has been patient for a reason. Rozier's career arc is already written in chapters. From playoff chaos creator in Boston to volume scorer elsewhere, his value has never been linear. That matters now. Teams are not trading for production, they are trading for flexibility. And flexibility is the one thing Boston understands better than most. There is also a psychological layer here. Miami holding on to Rozier, despite pressure, signals hesitation. Hesitation creates opportunity for rivals who are clear on their timeline. Boston does not need to chase this situation. Boston benefits from watching it unfold. The hopeful takeaway is simple but sharp. If the market struggles to absorb a contract like Rozier's, Boston's alternatives quietly become more powerful. More options, better terms, less desperation. Sometimes the smartest move is letting chaos happen elsewhere. And if this deadline turns messy around the league, do not be surprised if Boston walks away stronger without ever making the loudest move. What if the name disappearing from Boston's trade board actually reveals more confidence than panic? The latest update on Ivica Zubac sounds disappointing on the surface, but underneath it exposes how the league currently views the Celtics and why patience might be the real power move. League insiders now suggest the Clippers are no longer open to talks. Winning changed their posture. That matters. Teams do not lock the door on trade discussions unless they believe stability is paying dividends. And here is the twist. Boston being unable to access Zubac is not about failure. It is about timing and leverage. Zubac's value is obvious on paper: efficiency, rebounding, defensive positioning. But what rarely gets discussed is cost of acquisition versus marginal gain. Acquiring a center at peak market value usually signals urgency. Boston has shown none. That silence is not accidental. There is a deeper read here. When contenders pull back assets, it tightens the entire market. Prices inflate. Decision-makers who are calm benefit most. Boston sitting out this particular race could mean they are waiting for a different inefficiency to appear, one that others cannot exploit. Another uncomfortable question emerges. If the Clippers believe Zubac is central to their rise, why should Boston rush to match that valuation? Championship windows are not defined by reacting to every rumor. They are defined by choosing the right one. The hopeful angle is simple. Zubac being unavailable does not close doors. It clarifies priorities. It suggests Boston is not desperate for a name, but aligned around a vision that may not be public yet. When a popular target vanishes, it forces creativity. And historically, Boston's best moves have come when the obvious option was removed from the table. The deadline clock keeps ticking. The real story may still be forming behind the scenes.